During annual press conference, Vladimir Putin said across the whole Russia and the whole world that he does not like Russians and holds them in contempt. There are things that concern us the most. It's a life longevity. Not everybody understood it correctly. You need to listen attentively, because what Vladimir Vladimirovich is talking about, that the country is big and there are too few people in it. One of the most important tasks before us is in the area of demography. It is important from the point of view of humanitarian and geopolitical. 146 million for such a huge country is absolutely not enough. And here, attention, I must explain to you, of course, Vladimir Putin was talking about achievements and construction and problems, everything as usual, but in fact he was not interested in all those questions. He gets bored from those figures. He gets excited only from the word Ukraine, and about our country he spoke about at least 3 times, and again, seemingly nothing new, he again and again repeated the same old message that Russia repeats since 2014, that we didn't want to, it was a coup, we couldn't have not reacted to the situation in Donbass. But what's interesting, when he was talking about reasons of occupation of Donbass and Crimea, he confused the sequence of events. He presents it in a way that we always wanted to react, and he says that there was a first tragedy in Odessa, then Donbass, and then Crimea, but it was absolutely on the contrary. And what's interesting, Vladimir Vladimirovich talked a lot about life, but when he talked about death, he was worried only about people who died fighting for Russia. But it is okay to kill Ukrainians, actually it is good. Where is the main problem? Of course, it is clear that Vladimir Vladimirovich spends too much time in his bunker and reads too many historical books. And he is overflowed with this NATO message and the theme that Ukraine is not a state, that it is not real. For instance, Ukraine was created by Vladimir Ilyich Lenin, or it was created by communists in 1922. And now it's a reality wake-up call. The history of mankind is not limited with 1922 year when the Soviet Union was created. A lot of stuff happened before that, and Vladimir Vladimirovich likes to dive into history. And yes, he recognizes, admits that all the problems started after 2014, but he says we couldn't do otherwise. But, okay, we have heard this many times, but then interesting stuff started. There was an interesting question from an American who said, can you guarantee that you will not attack Ukraine? The question was clear and tough, and at first I wanted to remind her that he already attacked Ukraine. But the answer, what was the answer? He said that it is you, Americans, must guarantee safety guarantees to the Russian Federation. So Ukraine not entering NATO, not placing weapons that could threaten Russia. So Russia, according to President of the Russian Federation, is threatened by the fact of Ukraine's existence. So look how they upsided everything down. So now it looks like a threat comes out of Ukraine. So why I am saying that Putin holds Russians in contempt, and demography he needs only in order to make soldiers. Yes, by the way, about democracy. democracy. He was questioned, not questioned in a way Russians question Ukrainians, that is, Russia torture Ukrainians in Donbass. But he was questioned why Russia forgot how to make people. Yes, it is a global trend, but there is another reason to it. It seems like war is possible. He never said that it is not possible. And there was a beautiful question by Maxim Kurnikov, my very good acquaintance, and a man whom I consider a real journalist and a friend, who phrased it this way. Maxim Kurnikov, Эхо Москвы. Vladimir Vladimirovich, I want to continue the topic that started by my colleague from SkyNews, especially that she asked for guarantees, and you said that we will not give guarantees, but you at least twice spoke to Biden, and I would like to understand your vision. Does your opinion coincide about the future of Donbass, about the future of Minsk agreements? Because we hear statements from White House, from Foreign Hour, from Foreign Office, and it looks like a lot of coincides, but the word war sounds more frequently. And Vladimir Vladimirovich does not hurry to refute. He does not like Russians, and I will explain why. And so here we're saying about some possible war, and now Ukrainians probably watch us and spit on the screen, because the war already came into their territory in 2014, and they blame us for this war. They probably don't differentiate who gives what orders, but they really think that Russia wages war against Ukraine. Orders to Russian military are given by Vladimir Putin, and everybody knows that, including Maxim, ourselves, and Russians. The fairy tales, like we retired yesterday before dying from Ukrainian missile or something else. Tell these fairy tales to yourself. And now I'm talking not about Maxim, but about the Russian Kremlin leadership. And you didn't give guarantees. How do you imagine this? I received calls from listeners the day before yesterday. We discussed how they, in their families, discuss possible war with Ukraine. And the combination of these words is horrible. How do you inside feel about this? What do you think about it? Is it possible? How is it possible to give orders to shoot into Ukrainian and otherwise? The difference, in fact, is huge, because Ukrainian soldier defends its own land, its own country, and this country was named, is named, and will be named Ukraine. And for Vladimir Vladimirovich, hello from the bunker. It is not a problem to him, because he already gave this order, and not once. Yes, answering the previous questions, he complained about Ukrainian bad leadership, including Zelensky and Poroshenko. He does not distinguish them. He calls Ukrainian a regime, and he says that he was talking that I forewarned Poroshenko not to try to liberate that territory. But what happened? I will remind you, what happened when Poroshenko got elected? He gave an order to Ukrainian troops to bypass that territory and to take positions on Ukrainian-Russian border. And Russian occupants started to shoot, to fire on Ukrainian military from Rostov region. Answering to a question from America, Putin complained, we are so scared, so afraid, so what should we be waiting till we are fired upon? And now I recall the words of one of the private of Russian army. The whole night we were shooting on Ukraine. Idiotech, Rostov region, 2014 year. The future of Donbass. The future of Donbass should be defined by people who live in Donbass, not otherwise. What a democrat our Vladimir Vladimirovich. But Vladimir Vladimirovich, how is it possible that when I carry out direct dialogue with Donbass and all the people with whom I talk, with whom I make my interviews, why all of them say that Russians torture Ukrainians, torture with electricity? The list of methods quite long. Do you know how this happens? They should be tortured because they say Russian occupants fuck off. Yes, you chase them away. You chase them away from Donetsk, from Lugansk, from captured territories. You chase them away. Men, women, they are Russian-speaking. But it didn't protect them. And now you tell us that we have some problems with Russian language. Really? We see our role as being a mediator in the creation of the best conditions for defining the future of people who live in this territory. Are there problems? Yes, because according to Minsk agreements, Russia is a mediator. They want to try to make us a party to the conflict. Minsk agreement do not say it, and we didn't agree to it. I will explain to those who don't understand yet. So, a Russian gangster, in our case represented by Vladimir Putin, they attack the neighboring country, start to shoot on it from tanks, the whole nights, shooting on Ukraine as part of the One Nation project, and then they say, sign the document that you don't have any complaints towards us. It's not us. It's orcs who came from Moscow, but they are on vacation, and it's completely different. As Maria Zakharova says, it is different. Or is it not? And now about that somebody spits on the screen as they watch our event. There are always such people who can spit, and not only watching our event, but also watching at what happens in Ukraine. Total poverty. Everybody is preparing to tough winter. When parliamentary members, some come to the regions, pensioners ask them, why are you destroying us? Ukraine, as any other country, has its problems, stupidity. There are many poor people, many rich people, but in fact, it is cold outside, frost outside, but it is warm inside. The heating is on, everything works. In fact, everything is usual. There is no special anti-corruption prosecutor, but what Putin was asked, what was the question? How will you give orders to fire into Ukrainians? And he is telling us about economic problems. It is this Russian propaganda mantra that we shoot in them because they have poverty and corruption. Guys, we will sort out our problems by ourselves. The Ukraine is so rich that objectively it can provide for itself. Vladimir Vladimirovich likes to talk about our timber getting sneaked away. I don't understand why he's interested in the timber in Ukraine. A lot of stuff gets sneaked out of Russia, but it does not worry him. Then he says about cold winter and complains about gas being supplied from Germany to Ukraine through Europe, through Poland, and from Poland to Ukraine in reverse. But what about the main question, about the shooting? Because I, in Russia, was accused of being an extremist, that I ignite hatred towards Russians who with weapons in hands will cross or already crossed the border with Ukraine. And of course they spit on the screen watching the statements by current Kiev regime authority. By the way, Zelensky is lawfully elected president, so it's not a regime. we had a voting, and everybody who wanted voted, and we made a choice, and we have to live with it and to develop or try to develop. But it's not, Vladimir Vladimirovich, it's not your business. It is our business. So there will be always people who will speak from either side. Answering the question, is it possible to give orders to shoot? Ask this question to current Ukrainian leadership, how they give orders to shoot into Donbass. So we captured territory, we pray for Novorossiya, in particular Vladimir Putin, and now Vladimir Vladimirovich says that Ukraine gave order to shoot on its own people. But who said that you will be standing behind women and children? Oh, it was Vladimir Vladimirovich who said that we send the people to sort out military problems in Donbass, actually answering my questions. Yes, answering questions from Tsimbaluk. Putin admitted that he sent people to fight in Ukraine. Answering my questions, Vladimir Putin said that I'm asked where do they get all the tanks and artillery and ammunition from? Where do they get all the resupply? And Vladimir Vladimirovich put on a foolish face and said, oh, it's a sympathizing state supplied it to them. And now you are saying that you are a mediating state. But once again, attention. Dear Ukrainians, Russian-speaking, Ukrainian-speaking, he didn't say that he would not give order to orcs to shoot on us. And the Russians will be orcs. They are orcs, those who crossed the border with weapons. Russian fascists. They used to be fascist and now racist. It's just a fact. It is just a fact, because there is a Russian flag on the occupied territory. You know, some time ago we reached agreements that the order to respond to fire should be given only by highest ranking authorities up to a ministry. On one side it's Donetsk and Lugansk, and from the other side Kyiv. Why such a decision was made? Really? Freud slip up. We have reached such agreements. We. Vladimir Vladimirovich, if you have reached such agreements, why the fuck are you talking about internal conflict? Yes, Vladimir Vladimirovich corrected himself. He said between Donetsk, Lugansk and Ukraine, but everybody understands that you, as Putin himself said, we believe Putin, or sometimes he lies. I don't know, and that he refused, but the fact that he refused to say about guarantees of not attacking, he didn't say that he didn't give order to kill Ukrainians. Russian citizens, do you realize where he is pushing you? Do you understand why he needs demography and new citizens? Do you think that you will come to Ukraine and your demography will improve? I don't think so. Ukraine will put up huge resistance. And of course, I understand Russians can't influence their president, but you need to do something, because it was a huge horror for you and for us. Minsk agreements say that there should be changes made to the constitution of Ukraine to make autonomy, to carry out elections, to announce amnesty. What do we see? I already said in the law draft about transition period, instead of elections, military administration, instead of amnesty, lustration, instead of elections and political solutions to the political problems, the return of troops into their permanent bases. What is a return of troops into their permanent bases? It's bringing the troops in the territory. Yes, it is a huge crime, really. Ukrainian troops in Ukrainian territory. Horrible threat to Russia. Listen, Minsk agreements say there is demands to make changes to the constitution. Where are they? They say that these changes should be agreed with representatives of LNR and DNR. Vladimir Vladimirovich, if you show me where it is written in the Minsk agreements, then I will recognize the lawfulness of the occupation of Ukrainian Crimea. Otherwise, I understand that you lean on a Russian soldier, but he is not immortal. And you know that. He is perishable in Syria and in Ukraine. And you also know that. They should be agreed. I remember it because I participated in drafting them. They are not only they are not agreed, they're not making any suggestions for amendments, but they refuse to talk to representatives of Donbass. Even though when they signed those agreements in Minsk, they insisted on representatives of Donbass putting their signatures on those documents. And the rest, these signatures, they lie in discord with Sergei Lavrov lately, because in my recent video, Sergei Lavrov says that no, it was a position of the Russian Federation that Gauleiters put their signatures. Who were they? Plotnitsky and Zakharchenko. Who are they? Where are they? Where are those people? Do you know? I don't. Because instead of answering the demands of people for peace, using those demands in Ukrainian society, President Zelensky came into power, and instead of acting on the will of the people, he fell, as the previous leaders, he fell under radical elements' influence, as they are called in Ukraine, Nazis. What's the problem for us? I think I answered about question about Donbass. Putin is fearful. Really, he is scary because he really pushes Russians across the red line. They already crossed that line, but it's not enough for him. And do you know why? Because he understands that even though Ukraine became temporarily smaller, but it remained Ukraine, and he wants it to become Russia. We want to build good friendly relations with Ukraine. At any cost, we agree almost to everything. But how can we build such relations with current leadership, considering what they do? Almost impossible. We are ready to work with those forces that would like to build relations with Russia, friendly relations. What happens to those forces? Of course, almost no event passes by without supporting Medvedchuk and his party. You know, I've made some notes from the Putin's speech. And among all those madness, there was a question asked to him about Santa Claus, to whom it comes, when it comes. And Vladimir Vladimirovich says that he has good relations with Santa Claus, he became president, he thanked the Russians, and then said that Santa Claus brings gifts only to good girls and boys, and considering the expression towards Ukraine, Vladimir Vladimirovich considers that it is the most precious gift to him, Ukraine. And here is the punchline. Vladimir Vladimirovich, you have been two bad boys since 2014, and you will not see Ukraine will not see. And I probably should say a few words toward the Russian citizens. Get sorted it, start anti-war movements, because otherwise it will be horror, blood, coffins to you and to us. Happy New Year, dear Russians!